Major General Amos Gilead is the executive director of the Institute for Policy and Strategy at IDC Herzliya and is chairman of the Institute's annual Herzliya Conference. He joins us today to talk about Russia's involvement in the Middle East. General Gilead, thank you very much for joining us.
You're most welcome.
Let me ask you, I'm going to ask you a bottom line question first, and then we can go backwards from there and unpack it. But generally speaking, is Russia's involvement in the region a net positive or a net negative?
The Russians are a very important actor in the Middle East because they are determined to be like counterbalance to the United States and to resume their traditional position as very important power and to compensate what they have lost since Soviet Union has dismantled to pieces. So now we are living in the era that under the leadership of Putin, they are back. And in Syria, they do have success. They have got 2 bases, naval and air force. Nobody, neither Tsars, nor Stalin, Andropov, whoever, got 2 independent bases. It means way out from Russia to the Mediterranean. That's all dream. They do have achievement. They want Assad to stay in power against illusions in the way that he will step down based on democratic process. He will not step down. No, I mean, the Russians, the Syrians are not against democratic election as long as they know the results before, namely that he will stay in power. So they are very important. They are trying to build the relationship with Turkey, with the Kurds, to handle conflicts, like frozen conflicts, to be the most important power between them, and to penetrate to the Sunni-Arab world. That's more difficult. And the United States, we in Israel, friends of United States. The United States is ally of Israel. We are privileged and lucky to have US. The only ally and friend we do have, in the real one in the world, is the United States of America. The cooperation is unprecedented. And Pax Americana is my dream. But that's the reality.
How would you characterize the current relationship between Israel and Russia, maybe even more specifically between Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Putin?
We are living in an era that is very interesting, that Iran is our worst enemy, determined to destroy Israel. Now they are implementing this vision. They do have strategic plan, very briefly. Lebanon, they used to be countries, they are not anymore. Instead of it, there is Hezbollah, extension of Iran with 130,000 rockets aimed to Israel, threatening the population. Now they want to build another front in Syria with rockets, with missiles. Second layer, missiles are accurate, rockets are silly weapon. And the third layer is armed UAVs. In Lebanon, they rely on the Hezbollah with involvement of Revolutionary Guards, Iranians. In Syria, they are doing it themselves, and they want to bring Shiite. And then they want to build like mini kingdom, Persian kingdom between Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. And eventually, they want to rebuild the nuclear weapon. And now we are determined to prevent the build-up of the second front in Syria, and they are determined to build it up. So we are on collision course. According to international press, we keep attacking them on daily basis. The Russian is very interesting. Officially, they are not officially, they are considering Iran a strategic partner, but they don't like too powerful Iran that is not coordinated with them in Syria. So practically, they are tolerating our operations in Syria. We do have with the Russians not cooperation, but coordination. The difference is total.
So is that...
we are doing it in 2 levels. Prime Minister, Mr. Putin, that's very important, the strategic level and the military level.
So is the suggestion that Russia is a moderating influence in Iran and that currently serves...
No, not moderating.
Not moderating?
No.
Limiting in any way?
No, they cannot moderate Iran. They can support Iran, what they will do, but they don't like some aspects of Iran. In Syria, they are supporting Bashar Assad. They are sponsoring Bashar Assad. And the Iranians are too powerful. They will not allow them but they cannot do much themselves. What they will do, they will attack Iran. So if Israel allegedly does it, they tolerate it. But if Israel will be against Bashar Assad, for example, they will not tolerate it.
Does Russia have any influence on non-state actors like Hezbollah?
No.
None. Do they aspire to?
There is no difference. If you want something you cannot get, it's not important.
So what can you tell us about any implications for Israel's relationship with the United States based on its relationship with Russia? Is there overlap in a positive or negative way in that regard?
We are friends and allies of the United States. This is our main ally. We are enjoying the bipartisan support by the Congress of the United States, and not speaking about a friendly president like President Trump. And we do have long-standing friendship with the United States, real one. I mean, it covers so many areas of national security. Even we are contributing to the United States in many essential areas, in spite of the size of U.S. and Israel. Now, the Russians are in Syria, because I'm not sure what is the strategy of the United States in Syria. Maybe it will be clearer after the summit meeting between President Putin and President Trump. Maybe. I'm not so sure. There is conflict of interests. The Russians are determined to be in Syria and to be the counterbalance to the United States. The United States, my dream is to have Pax Americana of the United States leading the Sunni-Arab world, and Israel. We do have the best relationship. In Syria, there is vacuum. The president has declared that he would evacuate the American soldiers. The American soldiers are carrying out very important role by defeating the Daesh and IS and preventing the expansion of Iran in a way. So, but the Russians are trying hard to sell Turkey S-400. How United States will sell F-35, the best American, not the best, but among the best American aircrafts, while they do have S-400. They will talk to each other. I mean, the Russians, their policy is very clear, and the challenges are very clear as well.
There's been talk of a Russian peace plan for Palestinians and Israelis. What do you know about that? Is that anything that's pending? Would that be in competition with the U.S. role in the region?
Everybody may pretend that he can be competition to the United States. Only the United States can be relevant to any peace agreement between us. The Russians can cause damages. They cannot patronize peace treaty between us and the Palestinians.
You don't see them as a major player in that regard?
I'm sure they don't. They understand they are not.
Well, that's so. Our final thought on their role in the region is: do you see their role as contextual? In other words, the situation in Syria and the relations to Iran, or do they have a broader aspiration to create a permanent foothold in the region that would grow rather than shrink?
No, it will grow if it depends on them. Yeah. Their cards are Syria, partnership with Iran, with all the limits that I've mentioned, expanding their influence over Turkey, using the Kurds, maybe Iraq. In the Sunni-Arab world, they are selling civilian nuclear projects to Egypt, to Turkey. That's very dangerous. Now, I do think that they cannot achieve real influence over the Sunni-Arab world. Not now.
Why?
Why? Because the Arabs are smart enough to understand that what United States can afford them, no country in the world can afford them, and they do have trauma from the old Soviet times. In Israel, we need coordination. That's what we are doing, dialogue with the Russians. We are determined not to fight against Russians. It's so silly to do it. I mean, the Russians do have some sympathy with the Russian Jews, with Israel. They are not our strategic allies. They are not our friends. They are not considered as, but it's very important not to have conflict with them, military conflict. And it's very important to keep dialogue and coordination. Coordination is not equivalent to cooperation.
But within that context, do you have any concerns about their agenda becoming a destabilizing force for Israel?
They might be. They might be because, again, they are They did it during the Soviet Union time, even the worst ways. We don't have time to elaborate its history. Now, because we are focusing on Syria against Iran, we do have, temporarily at least, era of coordination. However, we cannot share with them real intelligence. We cannot share with them real technology because you don't have guarantee what they will do.
Yeah.
And they are considering, as rightly so, that we belong to the United States bloc and not to them.
General Gilead, thank you very much for
You are most
sharing
welcome.
your insights into the region and into these relationships.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.